Hi, it's Stephanie. Thank you so much for tuning in. I have Amber Swenor here today. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for welcoming me.
So Amber made the trip all the way from Madison. So thank you so much for doing that.
Yes, I think this is so fun to do this here at your studio.
It's a lot different than if you're on Zoom and you're in your workspace. And
yeah,
I've really had to embrace this space that I have and how can I make the most of it. So
it's beautiful.
Here we are.
Yeah.
Now, we were just talking beforehand, and you're a leadership coach. You are a retreat leader. You have a rock band, and you are pursuing a global public speaking career.
Yes, all of the above.
Now, are there seasons to this? Are there seasons that you're working on one thing versus the other, or is it how do you kind of come up with the ideas, and how do you keep pursuing the new things in life?
Yeah. So everything kind of it does fit under a cohesive brand or vision for what I'm doing, but there are sort of seasons in terms of where most of my energy, how my energy is going on, where I'm focused more on one aspect of the business than the other. So for example, with my speaking, like I'm always all year long marketing it or having conversations, but there are certain seasons in the year where I'm doing a lot more speaking. And then there's a few months that I know are slower months. And then the same with my band. Like we're always doing something for the band, but we're not always doing live shows. We pretty much do live shows from spring to the fall, and we use the winter to regroup, write new music. So they're all always existing, but they do have a rhythm and a flow of what's getting more of my time, energy, and attention depending on that time of the year. And that actually works really well for me while I'm very consistent, like there needs to be some type of time for restoration, like time to not be on stage and to refill my own cup.
So would you say you're introverted or extroverted or ambiverted?
Yeah, it's interesting because I am a lot more extroverted, but energetically I can get really burned out, and I like to spend a lot of time on my own. And as much as I love being with people, I need a lot of downtime and my own time to refill. So I think it depends on, I am extroverted, but some people understand extroverted as someone that has energy all the time and wants to be with people all the time. And that's not actually true, right? Because you could be an empathic extrovert or, someone who's an energetically sensitive extrovert. And I think that's what it is for me.
You just find, you find your flow and your balance. You
have to come back to myself. But in terms of like, I have no issue striking up a conversation with someone, or if I walk into a room full of strangers, that doesn't make me nervous. Sometimes that lights me up. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of, I think, an extrovert quality. But if I did that all day, especially a few days in a row, I would crash so hard for a few days after that.
Yeah. I know when I go to, a networking thing in Madison, I usually actually need a whole day.
Yeah.
Or the next day, I feel like I got hit by a truck. I'm super introverted.
I wonder if you're so introvert, sure.
Super introverted, but I love meeting new people and love connection and having deep conversations. But I just know the next day I'm going to feel like I am over or something.
Do you know your human design as well?
No.
Okay, that's okay.
I have done it.
That's okay. That's just been a piece of the puzzle for me that was a really cool awareness piece, since I do identify as a high achiever, but the more I learned about how I could get so burned out, and I got to start reframing what being a high achiever looks like for me on my terms, and that was like a piece of the puzzle. So I always get curious to know if people know their open or closed centers or their human design type. But
I've done so if I don't do something often, it's in one ear, out the other, unless I force myself to take a class. But I think it's interesting.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of stuff is interesting.
Yeah.
So with all the things that you're doing, and you also wrote a book, which is amazing.
Thank you.
Was there a moment in your life where you were like, I want to be a public speaker. I want to be an author. I want to do all these things. I want to be on stage and with my band. but I'm afraid to do it. And you had to, was it just one day that you put the line in the sand, or was it a process, or is it still a process? Where are you at in the journey of self-discovery?
Yeah. So I laugh because there's this whole thing around sometimes a thing that you feel you're meant to do, even if you don't always feel like you want it, but you know it's meant for you. That's just a constant dance, because both things are true, where I 100% know I'm meant to be visible on stages helping people. But then there are days where I could completely go the opposite and literally live in a cabin in the woods and never be engaged in society again. I don't think I'm alone in that. So honestly, some of my earliest memories from the time I was very young was that I always felt I was meant to do music. I just loved the feeling, the freedom that rock and roll music in particular, I really connected with that. So that was really true for me. And also, I mean, I don't even know how as a kid I learned what public speaking was, but I started signing up for things like forensics and these speaking contests from pretty early on, like second grade. And I felt like I was meant to do that. And then a lot happened in life. And I think I told myself a number of different things you can tell yourself. Like, well, what do I have to speak about? What's this? I don't have life wisdom or experience. Who wants to hear me talk? So I focused on other things for so many years. And the last few years, and for years, and so, you know, I went to college, I had different jobs. And then when I started my business, I would speak as a means of growing my business. But the last few years, I got really clear that I'm meant to speak to be transformational in and of itself, not to grow my business. Like, I'm meant to speak to make an impact, but let that be my business. There was a key moment. It was in 2019, and I was at Archangel Summit in Toronto. They had some amazing speakers, including Lisa Nichols. And I'm not remembering her business name, but she's been around for years as a motivational speaker, just helping people see the power in themselves.
Okay.
And when I watched her speak on that stage, I said, I'm going to speak on that stage someday, just like Lisa. But she also is very much a transformational speaker, where she's not really teaching you exactly how to implement something in your business or giving you some mindset hack. She's speaking from her soul that helps you just see yourself in a new light as a person. And that was so empowering, because that's what I feel like when I speak, what I'm meant to do. But for years, I struggled with, well, will they only hire you to speak if you're going to teach people how to do social media or how to do X or how to do Y, which I do have a lot of those skills that I weave in, because, you know, when you're going in to speak, like, there needs to be an impact and an outcome. But a lot of times the outcome that people seek is a transformation within themselves, to see themselves in a new light, you know? And so that was a really cool catalyst moment when I set that goal and vision. And then I worked for that goal for 5 years. And this last September, I did speak at Archangel Summit, Canada's biggest business and leadership development event, with some amazing speakers that were there. And so that was a really cool manifestation moment of seeing someone that really spoke to me. And I was like, I meant to do that. And now I'm doing it.
Yeah. But have you had a lot of those moments in your life where, I'll give an example. So when the first time I went to Sedona, ran across this random art studio, the artist was there and he had these beautiful images in gold frames, places around the world. And I started to cry because I realized that was what I want to do. This is what I'm for.
Was it meant to see those places?
No, to photograph them and have my own studio. However, life has changed, and I don't have the desire to travel to all these places and have an art studio. I want to make an impact as well on a different level. So have you had those moments where you think, okay, this is what I want, and then they change and you just kind of pivot?
Yes, well, definitely. And I think it's also the more that we learn ourselves and really what matters most to us in that new stage of life. And I don't think it's as black and white as oh, I don't want that anymore. It's acknowledging there's a part of you, at least for me, there's things I've maybe wanted, and a part of me could still want it, but it's a matter of priorities, you know, and if there's something else that becomes higher priority in terms of how, so I look at things a lot from how do I want to feel on the day to day and how do I want my life to look? And then I build my business backward around that. And so, 10 years ago when I started my business, I had to be willing to do a lot more hustle and take on a lot more different kinds of projects. And I was building a team and I had to be willing to show up for them all the time. Where then 5, 6, 7 years into the journey, I started to realize there's aspects of that I love, but there's aspects that are draining me, or the vision's just shifting. So for you,
I guess that's,
and it's maybe like fulfilling it in a different way. Like I still take beautiful images.
Yeah, they're just some people, and I have this image of having this gallery, even if it's just for a day, of these beautiful images of women, that are just like shining in their glory. So yeah, I guess thank you for that clarifying. Has your vision shifted? The things that you thought you wanted changed in the last couple of years?
Yeah, and it's like a yes and no for me, because I've always, and everyone's different. So when I share my vision, I don't expect, or I encourage people to personalize it to themselves, because I have always had a bit of this North Star thing that I know in my I feel I'm fulfilling a purpose, but I also acknowledge that the way it feels true for me, I don't think is actually true for a majority of people, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But for me, from the time I was very young, I felt like I was meant to be here to help people in their evolution. I didn't have the language for it when I was a kid, but it was an aspect of helping people live more authentically and more free of fighting and fear and anger and ego. And so I have always felt like that's my life's purpose. In terms of how I make that happen, that's the thing that shifts. Yeah. So it's like both and. It's like, yes, I have a vision of what I'm here to do. And I've had to get comfortable with allowing the way in which I fulfill that to shift.
Yeah. That's such a huge thing that I think if who's ever listening needs to understand that too. When you make a choice to start living a more aligned life, that you don't know what that's going to look like.
Yes.
You have no idea what alignment even means. And then when you start doing it, you take these little pieces and you kind of just follow this path of alignment. And where you end up is going to look completely different than where you think you're going to end up.
Yes. Yes to that. Totally. And I think I'm always walking that journey. Like right now, as an example, so the last few years, I've really focused, I'm very much a quality over quantity, like focused on deep impact with the less amount of clients. And I kept really getting this pull toward expanding my message wider through more and more stages, and almost like this idea of transformation for the people. I think sometimes the transformational work, personal development work, can only be available to, it's maybe a bit more elite to be able to work with a coach or invest in yourself in that way. And so I felt like I'm meant to connect with more people and bring these messages forward. So I gave myself permission loosely to say, I'm going to pursue this very focused for 2 to 3 years and see where I end up. And I'm like halfway through that, right? Or I'm like, I'm not, even though I might self-doubt, I'm not taking myself off course at all for the next year. Yeah. I'm not launching or creating anything new. I may have offers within the realm of what I'm doing, but I'm not starting new businesses. I'm not changing my mind in terms of that speaking is the majority of where I'm focused.
Well, fair to say.
Yes, on stages. Exactly. There's different types of speaking.
And your music.
Yes. Yeah.
Like Amber on stage is what your focus should be.
Thank you. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. But it's not always necessarily like I know I'm meant for it, and I'm like, okay, there's still moments where I'm still doing some of that deep personal work through retreats. Mm-hmm. It's just that it's not where I'm spending as much of my time. And that doesn't mean I might get to the end of this next 1.5-year cycle and I might change my mind. I may be like, okay, I'm doing this, I'm doing speaking all out, or I might say that was amazing, and now I want to go back to working with 3 people at a time. I'll see when I get there.
Right.
But I've given myself permission to just stay extremely focused on this for the next year.
Yeah. And so you're midway through. when did it start? Was it like a January 1st thing? Was it?
No, so I had been making small steps, but a real big shift was the summer of, am I coming up on 2 years? Summer of 2023. Yes.
Okay.
Summer of 2023. Yes, that would be it, because wow, it's wild thinking about how fast the years go. What are we now?
For sure.
I'm like, wait a minute. That was when so I had built a brand strategy marketing firm. I had evolved into doing more coaching, consulting, speaking, but it's kind of a long story. But as some things shifted through the pandemic and as some team members were leaving, I stopped rehiring those roles and I started referring some business out. As certain clients left, I didn't replace them because I knew I was shifting away from as much of the done for you marketing work to allow myself to step into this work.
Mm-hmm.
And June 2023 was when my last full-time employee, who had been with me 6 years, departed. That came with so much gratitude and grief. Mm-hmm. It's not as simple as like people leave and I'm moving on to the next thing. Like I grieved for a few years about this transition with my team.
Yeah.
And so, but that was really when I started putting more of the effort toward how do I step up and be booked by new types of groups consistently, the groups that have money to pay.
Yeah.
I had somewhat been involved with the National Speakers Association and the Wisconsin chapter, but I really went all in with them in September of 2023 with joining. I've since gotten involved in the board. I go to as many meetings as I can. I'm involved in masterminds, and that has helped grow my career a lot. Like invested in redoing my speaker reel. And so it's taken that 1.5 years of really networking and building my online assets. But now this is the year where I really see it. Like I'm traveling, to multiple states this year. I was in Canada last year. I have 5 talks in April. I don't always have 5 every month, but like it's finally getting to be really consistent. And I'm traveling to 3 different states and countries in April in order to do that. So it took the intentional planting of seeds and putting myself out there for a long time before now it's all coming to fruition.
And what would you say to somebody that is listening to this and they're like, well, that's great for Amber, but that I couldn't do that, right? How do you help people with that mindset block that it's always meant for somebody else and not themselves?
So the I couldn't do that is something that they feel called to do.
Yeah. There's so many people that are even in my position as single mom, photographer, owning my own business, like, well, you're really strong. So that's good for you.
Yes. And a lot of people struggle with that.
Mm-hmm.
But you get what you give your attention to. So we can give ourselves reasons why me, or we can give ourselves reasons why not me. And that's not to take away from the very real fact that, some people have more obstacles to overcome, and that is what it is, right? The other thing is we truly don't know what's going on behind the scenes for other people.
Yeah.
There's some things we can see, right? We can see, are they a parent or not? The color of our skin. Like there's certain things we're aware of. And I truly believe like every person's navigating their own battles, their own invisible things that we aren't aware of. Yeah. And so I think that's also where it can be supportive sometimes. First of all, you've got to have that support network that's going to help you see like, here's all the reasons why yes, instead of why no. And then also if it helps to find someone who someone can relate to in some form or fashion. Yeah. Like if someone's saying, well, I'm a single mom and that person's not, maybe then their mentor or someone that they need to look to get inspiration is find some other single moms that you can see yourself in.
Right. And I love how as you're speaking too, I don't think I've heard you say the B word, but what? You say and.
Okay.
Yeah. And I feel like that's a mindset shift too. There's no but, it's a and.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's this is hard, but it's not that. It's like, it's hard and I'm going to keep pursuing it anyways. And I'm going to take these little steps. So
that's cool you caught that, because I do think that was something like 5, 6, 7 years ago I became aware of how much I had buts. And so, which is a blessing and a curse, because I'm someone who can see like a whole picture and very strategic. So I'm able to see potential reasons why something won't work out. And I wanted to give myself It was more intentional, and now it's probably just ingrained in how I am being.
Yeah.
That was cool that you commented on that,
And when you say and,
because I wasn't always that way.
when you say and, it's a permission. When you say but, it's an obstacle, I feel.
Yeah.
As you're speaking anyways, those are the visualizations that I have. And is opening a door. But is, like those things you have to jump over and track that I was deathly afraid of. What are they called? Hurdles.
Hurdles can be scary, and we don't know, we don't try.
Right.
And if you fall, you can get up and make the next one.
Yeah, you'll have a story to tell.
And give yourself a smaller hurdle where you can have an easy win, and then you can go for the bigger one.
Exactly. So you've kind of taken this role. And also there's another thing too that I just read, that it almost, after a big life change, for instance, your business transforming, it actually does take 3 years to kind of get over that process. So you are now almost 2 years in. So now this third year, you're going to fly.
Wow.
It's first year is just allowing, second year is learning, and third year is, you're out, you're gone. You're
Well,
to the sky.
I love you shared that, because something I struggle with, and I think a lot of people do, are these ideas around timelines and thinking things are supposed to happen faster than they can. And yeah, it's,
there is no timeline, but I have, however.
but giving right and just acknowledging that it's okay if things take some time and space as we're still stepping into the next thing that we're doing. And
I would say it was about 3 or 4 years ago when I switched from doing family photography to headshots in corporate. And it takes time. I thought I'd put a couple posts out there. Hey, I'm doing headshots. No idea what I was doing with headshots, but now it's the majority of my work. But it's a process. It's following those leads. It's navigating what that looks like, and not giving up is a huge piece to the puzzle too.
Absolutely agree with that.
Yeah. Where do you see yourself in an ideal world 5 years from now? Where do you want to be?
I want to keep having the space to spend time in the relationships that matter the most. I have a whole bunch of nieces and nephews that I love so much, and I want the freedom to be present for their life. So with that, again, I always start with the how do I want to feel, what I want my life to look like.
Yeah, we stop and talk about that. Yeah. How do I want to feel? That's such an
I want to feel healthy. I want to feel like I'm aging backwards in a healthy way.
Mm-hmm.
I have recently really been noticing some of those like pains and creaks in my body. And so I want to feel that I'm taking care of myself. That for me, that looks like going to the gym and making food. So this is how my mind works. I think about how I want to feel. And then I say, okay, well then what do my days and weeks need to be structured like? And then I look at, I need these times to go to the gym, or I need the work I do to allow me to operate like this. So that's how I work with backtracking all that. But then I do have some of my, bigger fun things. Like I want to be traveling the world. And so with that, it's focused on work that allows me to continue choosing my schedule.
Yeah.
I see myself at that point probably leaning a bit more into something that involves certain months of the year where I'm completely off. So I have full rest and recharge, like a sabbatical month. I don't know if I'll stick with this, but I roughly think it's something like December to January and July will be my months of no clients, no projects.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about leaning into that.
I think that's super important to take that time and just breathe and eat tacos or whatever it is that you need to do.
Yeah.
I think for me, I wanted to visit all these places, and I realized that all these places that I wanted to visit, I was just doing it to kind of check off a box. And so this year I've really decided that I'm not going to travel as much. I'm going to stay home, and I'm going to go camping, and really just leaning into this calmness that my nervous system has never had.
Yes.
Because I've been so busy checking boxes. And now I'm at the point where I realize how unfriendly that's been to myself, and really just honoring who I am. So I love that for you, health and taking those steps back. Okay, what does that look like? Because for me, what is being kind to myself look like? Like, okay, I like being out in the woods. okay, then what do I need for that? Well, I need a tent,
Yes.
and I need a cooler, and taking those steps back so that I can go out into the woods and feel calm and not hungry or scared and all the things. So it's an interesting ride that we're all on.
I love that. I love that. And I will join you camping. I'm thinking about trying it in an RV or camper of some sort.
I would love to have an RV or camper again at some point. But for now, it's really just taking these little moments, these weekends. My dog is now almost 2. So I feel like I've been raising a puppy for a few years, and now it's my time to take him with and enjoy the ride.
Awesome.
So we were just talking about traveling, and I would love you to talk about your retreat that's coming up, because I have, so here's the thing with me, and maybe you're similar. It sounded kind of like you are. It's like kind of like dabble here. It's like, oh, that doesn't quite feel right. Pull back, dabble here until you figure out it's like a maze, right? You know, like when we, as kids, it's like you want to follow the thing, and then all of a sudden you're at the end and you got to backtrack. And so I've been wanting to hold transformational retreats as well. And I realized after I had one booked that it just didn't feel right. And I realized I need to do one in Santa Barbara, because that's where I had this huge transformation.
You know, it's funny, I've heard you talk about Santa Barbara and at a retreat, like in some form.
Yeah.
You've spoken about these two things parallel for the last 4 or 5 years.
Yes.
Amazing.
And I haven't done it yet. And so this is what's going to happen, is because I wrote a book, and again, I've had to reset it a few times. It should be on its final author's copy coming out in a couple days. And it's all about this transformation that I had. So I really want to take people there. There's a huge unknown in that, right?
Yeah.
Scary, but exciting. So how did you kind of get over that hump of, okay, I want to be a retreat leader? I'm sure you didn't know we don't know how we're going to do things. We just figure it out.
Yeah. So I started, small's not even the word. I started local, and I started more with my intimate circle, where rather than marketing something and pre-purchasing everything, instead I went to and communicated with women in my network who had been connected with my work for a while. And I think this was around 2017, 2018. I had done other like day workshops, but this one I did. So I'm based in Wisconsin, and I did it in Lake Geneva, and I had 7 women, and I don't even know if I had like a public information page about it. I think so. And this is a big way that I coach people as well, is what are the lowest hanging fruit, smallest step, thing that we can feel most comfortable stepping into, and then building it from there. And so I tried it on. It was a 2 nights. It was profound, but the whole time I was going through it, I was self-doubting, wondering if people were getting what they needed. I had to keep, like in every moment, bring myself back to self-trust. It took everything in me to accomplish it. And on the drive home at the end of the retreat, I just started sobbing with an energy release, and I cried for hours of just like all the energy I had been holding and all how hard I was on myself. And then it was mind-blowing. In the coming days, I started getting messages about how that was one of the best things I've ever done in my life. Here's the action I took. Someone went for partner status in the business they owned. Another person who had been in an uncoupling journey, like had confidence, clarity, vision of how she was going to move forward. Another person up-leveling in her business. Like, even after that, several years later, I'm in touch with most of them. They have told me about the things that have come as a result of that being a catalyst. So the way I started was talking to the people that I most had some level of comfort with, that I was like, I think I'm meant to do this. I think you're meant to be there. Let it be easier. Let it be more intimate, kept the price down. And then I just kept taking incremental steps from there in terms of, how do I make this wider? Do I want to now go out of state and now out of country? You know, but it was step by step by step over the last 6 to 8 years. So it is clear to me that is meant to remain an aspect of my work. That is, I do feel that's important, and I love it. And
you have one coming up.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. And so for the last 4 years, the only retreats I have are a part of coaching programs. So I have not done standoff one-off retreats. those can be really awesome, but it just didn't fit with my model and for a lot of other reasons. And because I like to work with people where we really have lots of safety and like we can really go deep with the experience. So my year-long coaching program right now, usually we have 5 to 7 clients and our group is small with 3 amazing, awesome people, which normally I wouldn't be able to run it for that with what we put into it. And I have a coach on my team where she also works with me in the program. But we decided to run it for these 3 awesome women. We're like, this is a small group, but if you all are in, we're in. And then we had a virtual retreat and then a retreat in Sedona. And I was already thinking, you know, for our last retreat in Mexico, I was already feeling like maybe we're meant to open it up to other people. And I didn't want it to feel like it was impeding on their journey because it was the end of their year-long and it's their closing retreat. And it was so cool because the clients brought up to me in Sedona, they said, well, what would you think about, like, we think this would be great to expand all of our circles if you opened it to more women. And it also financially helps because if we have more people, we can do more for the group. Yeah. And so that was beautiful that I was already feeling it. And then the client suggested it. We have 2 women so far that signed up. We have space for up to 2 more. I'm not sure if we'll get 2 more or not. The retreat's in less than a month.
In Mexico.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. In the Nayarit region, we're staying at an awesome little eco lodge, which so far only our group is booked there. There's one like casita open. I don't know if it'll get booked. So we basically have the whole place to ourselves. It's a 10, 15 minute walk down to a private beach. We're in the jungle. There's yoga. We have a private chef. We're doing a photo shoot experience. And so that was really awesome that it was just a way to open it up for people who haven't been able to come to a retreat with us.
Yeah.
And 2 women said yes so far outside of our group program. And
you have room for a few more?
Yeah.
So hopefully somebody that's listening, because
how fast this will air, by the way.
It actually airs next week.
Okay.
Yeah.
So someone is watching and you feel it could be meant for you. I always say to people, if you feel something's meant for you, like, listen to that. There's a reason that that's speaking to you.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to say, oh, you have to work with me. It's in whatever way or whoever you're meant to work with, or right. It's
right.
Yeah. Well, that's our soul speaking to us.
Which we should talk about that in one second. Okay. What's kind of nice if people do want to go to your retreat now is you're getting not only you and another coach, but you're also getting women that have just been through your coaching program.
They're amazing.
So you.
It's like, all, yeah.
I mean, the energy's got to be unreal.
Super, yes. It's so, they all have shared a common thread about saying because they started sharing intentions for the retreat. It's about showing up as their true selves and having the space and total acceptance for everyone else to show up as their true selves. Yeah. It's an unleashed retreat. And every group is so special and unique in their own way. And I just feel this massive up level around this complete acceptance of each person being who they are.
Yeah.
They don't all believe the same, think the same, have the same lives. And there's complete openness for how do we each be in our own sovereign being and still support each other and potentially co-create. Like, people always leave retreat and stay friends, do business together, support each other. Some go to work together. Like, it's really amazing what I see happen coming out of these experiences.
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
Thank you for asking about the retreat.
Oh my gosh, yeah. One of these times I will be able to.
You're meant to be there someday.
I know. If I had a passport, which I don't right now, you probably would have just sold me on it.
Do you want to be a risk taker? You can get it expedited in 2 to 3 weeks. If you want to take a risk, girl, but if it can come in time.
Yeah. Maybe that would be a sign to see if I could get it. Obviously, I have all the equipment to do my passport picture. Okay. Anyways.
That would be a story.
I know. But, so you kind of brought up something that I think, we've been kind of navigating this whole journey thus far in this conversation is soul purpose. And I know that's a huge theme in everything that you do. And it's a huge theme in my life too, because some of the hardest things I've had to do because my soul wanted it. And you have to follow those signs. So we talked about a support system, having people around you that support you. But what are some other ways that you kind of feed your soul, nurture your soul, so that it feels that it can come out and play and guide you?
these might sound like such basic things, but I have learned that it is sometimes the basics, like being in nature, eating healthy, getting good sleep, surrounding myself with people and knowing who the people are that I can have the totally real conversations with, where I can even say to them, I just want to talk, right? Or we understand how to support each other, or we'll ask permission. Like, do you want me to just listen, or do you want me to offer you questions you can think on, right? So it's the things I call lifestyle basics. I know they sound basic, but they were so huge for me because when I was overworking, I was tired, I was reactive, I didn't feel great. Therefore, I just couldn't connect with my higher self. And then it was once I started surrounding myself and feeling safe to trust friendships, relationships, that people weren't going to try to fix me, because I didn't need fixing, and weren't going to come at it with their own perceptions or limiting beliefs, right? It's those things helped immensely.
Yeah. I would say for me, it's journaling and then meditating. And now what I'm working on is kind of honoring my 11-year-old self, because that's about the time that I kind of shut off the creativity. So I was doing the Macarena. Do you remember that dance?
Yes,
I don't know how old you are.
Oh, 100%.
So I have these remembering of somewhere around that age doing the Macarena. So I just put it on Spotify, and I'm creating a Spotify station for my 11-year-old self.
Good for you.
Yeah, and it's just reconnecting with that childhood innocence that I think we forget how important that is.
Yeah.
And that's what you're talking about, nature and friendship and good food. It's like that's all stuff that we took for granted when we were young.
Yes. And it's so powerful that you're doing that deep look at where maybe did you start to shut something off, or right, however it showed up for you. That is beautiful.
Yeah.
And
then you just ask, like, what do you need right now? Well, I need the Macarena.
I need to dance. I need to have fun.
Yeah.
I need to not be inundated by these so-called all these other things in life.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, and thank you for saying journaling, because I kind of completely skipped over that. It's something I have gotten away from like the last year, but that was huge for me a few years ago when I was really in some deep ish stuff. And I think I've heard like the science is that it's proven that it also helps sometimes process things in our subconscious.
Yeah.
The things we don't realize. So I think that's important.
I think our hands have energy of themselves. And I don't know how else to describe that other than sometimes when you're writing, it's like they have their own thing they need to get out too. It's like they're a tool.
Yeah.
A tool for self-expression, just like speaking.
Yeah.
And I find that through journaling, sometimes they just need to write. And
That's awesome.
let them write. And the last thing I want to talk about before we kind of wrap things up is this notion that because we do hard things, and for instance, you've made now you're a public speaker and you are traveling the world doing this, that's it for you. This was my dream. I'm doing my dream. And the reality is that there's going to be another dream after that.
Yeah.
And I think
I kind of wish that I could settle on one thing, make my life easier.
Yeah, but we don't. I mean, we can.
Yeah.
But
nothing wrong with it if someone does.
Yeah.
And I know I've got a lot of work to do.
Yeah. And I
see
think
multiple things coming. More books, making a movie. There's like a lot. There's a whole version. I've always had a passion for elephants, and I want a point in my life where I can afford to be on full sabbatical. I want to donate like a year or two to working for an elephant sanctuary in some form or fashion, like donating myself to help that cause of protecting African elephants.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's definitely other things coming.
Right. And just being open to that process in a way that's super healthy, where for me, I work so hard to get to this point to have my own place, and my business is running well enough that I can afford my own, like, all the things that I wanted to do for 5-10 years. And now I'm at the point where it's like, oh yeah, like there's so many more things to do in such a positive way. It's not like, oh, I have to get out of this relationship
Yeah.
I have to work really hard. It's like allowing the new things to come in and creating space for that to happen. So, I love that you still have like these big dreams, and even though your dreams are coming true, it just opens the door for more dreams.
Yes. I love that you brought that up. And a shift for me, because the me of 5 years ago was very much because I am so goal oriented and I have all these visions. The me of a few years ago would hustle through and would be working so hard to get that thing and like run to the next.
Right.
Where now I've really I've worked on falling in love with the process and falling in love with the journey.
Yes.
And it's had to be an intentional thing to focus on, because that's not my inherent MO. Some people are so good about loving the journey and the process. No, my like natural way of being is accomplishing things and having big, scary sounding goals and dreams, and then tackling it to prove I could do it, or a team I was working with could do it. Yeah. And I still enjoy that to an extent, but not making that my everyday all the time, like not racing through.
Right.
I'm slowing down to savor the things as they're happening.
Right. And enjoying the process versus hustling through the process.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's what kind of opens the door for the next beautiful thing to happen, versus it's just the scarcity versus abundance mindset.
Jake, the podcast therapy dog, is Jake, right?
Mm-hmm.
Jake, the podcast therapy dog, supports this. He says,
does.
slow down and pet me.
Well, it's thundering out. I don't know if you can hear it. So
Oh, okay.
we're a little scared.
Okay.
Already.
Oh, see, I all of a sudden wanted to make it about me, like he liked me. And
He
wanted
does
to come
like you.
back.
He does. But I think he's scared. Okay, so how can people kind of follow along on your journey? What's the platform that you're most active on and enjoy doing the most, if any?
LinkedIn and Facebook for different things. I am somewhat on Instagram, but I am making a concerted effort to have a much more consistent presence on YouTube going forward.
Awesome.
With weekly videos that will be coming. So for more professional and leadership guidance, definitely LinkedIn.
Say that one more time. Starting at for
more professional leadership guidance, definitely LinkedIn. And for more of a mixed bag of a little bit of everything, a little old school with my Facebook, but that would be the place.
Awesome. And any parting advice for my listeners today? Maybe not advice, guidance, words of wisdom.
Well, we didn't talk a lot about authenticity, but so the true definition of authenticity is when your beliefs and values are in alignment with your actions, what you're saying and what you're doing. And so I want to encourage people to not write off authenticity like it's an overused word. What does that mean? Anything anyway? Because when you start unpacking it, it really involves looking at your beliefs. And when you can look at and examine any limiting belief or judgment you have, really start looking at where did that come from and is it yours or not? Because that's when you start unpacking it, that's what it means to truly be authentic. And when you're truly authentic, you untap a level of personal self-love and freedom that I think is what most people are actually seeking, which is to feel at peace within yourself. And that's how you get it through authenticity, is by unpacking your beliefs and your values. So that was like longer than a one takeaway sentence, but I feel it's important for people to really go deeper with what does it mean to live authentically.
Yeah, it is an overused word for sure. And I want to rephrase that, because I think the people that need...
Some people water it down, I suppose.
I would say maybe it's watered down a little bit, but yeah, and honestly, we haven't talked about it, but we've been talking about it the whole time.
Yes, exactly.
Through different words and...
Yep, exactly. Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.